Welcome back to CIA Declassified. We are transported to the 1990s and early 2000s, a period of profound uncertainty in the wake of the Cold War. The world has shifted from the great game of two superpowers to a more fractured, volatile landscape. In the Middle East, the race for regional dominance was no longer just about tanks and territory. It was about the atom. We are standing in the quiet, sterile monitoring rooms of the agency, where analysts stare at grainy satellite photos of industrial complexes in Iran and Iraq. The air is heavy with the tension of red lines and breakout timelines. This was an era where a single shipment of high-strength aluminum tubes or a sudden spike in power consumption at a mountain facility could trigger a global crisis. The agency was tasked with seeing the invisible, tracking the subatomic fingerprints of nations determined to join the nuclear club. This was the era of the nuclear watchmen. This was KUPEARL. How did this operation get its name? The designation KUPEARL follows the cryptonym protocols of the CIA. The KU prefix was historically used to denote the agency's Office of Communications or specific technical collection programs under the Directorate of Science and Technology. The suffix pearl was chosen as a metaphor for the target. Just as a pearl is a hard, valuable object formed in secret, hidden away inside a shell, a nuclear program is a hard target encased in layers of military secrecy and geographical isolation. To find the pearl meant penetrating the shell of a nation's most guarded secrets to find the concentrated, dangerous value inside. KUPEARL wasn't just a mission, it was a global hunt for isotopic signatures. KUPEARL was a CIA-led technical collection program focused on the monitoring and interdiction of nuclear proliferation activities throughout the Middle East. A quote from a Declassified 2003 briefing: "The detection of special nuclear material requires a multimodal approach combining human assets with advanced remote sensing." End quote. Records show that KUPEARL deployed environmental sampling kits near suspected enrichment sites in Bushehr to detect trace amounts of uranium. Documentation confirms that the agency utilized airborne particulate collectors mounted on unmanned platforms to sniff the atmosphere for radioactive isotopes. The program tracked the global gray market for dual-use technologies such as high-precision miraging steel and frequency converters. A quote from a declassified technical memo: "The signature of the centrifuge is unique. Once the humming starts, the secret is out." End quote. KUPEARL utilized thermal imaging satellites to monitor the heat signatures of underground reactors and cooling towers in the Iraq region. Logs indicate that the agency coordinated with the IAEA to plant tamper-indicating devices on sealed nuclear storage containers. Technical files reveal that the program developed acoustic fingerprinting to identify the specific vibrations of the P1 type centrifuges used in clandestine labs. Records prove that KUPEARL monitored the travel patterns of high-value scientists moving between the Middle East and North Korea. The agency utilized cyber infiltration to gain access to the internal blueprints of suspected heavy water facilities. Documentation confirms the operation utilized seismic sensors placed near mountain ranges to detect the underground testing of conventional explosives used in nuclear triggers. Memos reveal that the CIA used cryptographic analysis to break the coded communications of the AQ-CON proliferation network. The system utilized satellite laser altimetry to detect subtle changes in ground elevation that might indicate the construction of new underground tunnels. Records show that the agency recruited foreign procurement officers to act as double agents, feeding the agency data on what equipment was being ordered. The program employed isotopic analysis of soil samples taken from the shoes of diplomats returning from restricted zones. Documentation shows that the agency utilized hyperspectral imaging to identify the chemical composition of tailings piles outside secret mines. Internal ledgers confirm that KUPEARL funded a global network of radiation monitoring stations disguised as weather centers. The operation utilized magnetometers to detect large amounts of specialized metals being moved through the shipping ports, like Bandar Abbas, ABBAS. Records indicate that the CIA used water analysis from rivers downstream of industrial sites to check for heavy water concentrations. The program utilized deep cover operatives to place listening devices inside the private offices of nuclear program directors. The agency tracked the export of high-strength carbon fiber, which is a critical component for the high-speed rotors inside modern gas centrifuges. Documentation proves that KUPEARL monitored the electrical grid of Tehran to identify specific power surges associated with the activation of centrifuge cascades. Records indicate the use of honeypots, where the agency set up fake technology firms to sell tampered vacuum pumps to proliferation networks. Field reports show the agency assets collected dust samples from the ventilation grates of suspected dual-use research universities. The program utilized gamma-ray spectrometers mounted on commercial-looking vans to scan shipping containers without stopping them. Agency records confirm the monitoring of nuclear brain drain, specifically tracking Russian scientists who were offered lucrative contracts in the Middle East after 1991. The operation utilized X-ray crystallography to determine if intercepted metals were actually the high-grade alloys required for nuclear triggers. Documentation confirms that the agency used infrared spectroscopy to detect the unique chemical byproducts of uranium processing and the smoke of industrial furnaces. Technical logs reveal the deployment of undersea acoustic arrays to monitor suspicious cargo ships that disabled their transponders in the Persian Gulf. Records show that the agency established shadow labs in the U.S. to recreate and test the exact centrifuge designs found in the Middle East to predict their failure points. Memos describe the use of digital twin simulations to model the interior of underground facilities based on excavated dirt volume observed by satellites. The program identified a secret uranium yellowcake processing plant through the isotopic signature found in the feathers of local migratory birds. Documentation proves that the agency intercepted shipments of ring magnets destined for a front company in Dubai. Internal audits confirm the use of stellar navigation interference to throw off the guidance systems of potential nuclear-capable missiles during test flights. The operation monitored the purchase of specialized clean room equipment, as nuclear assembly requires an environment free of microscopic dust. Records confirm that the agency placed chemical sniffers inside the luggage of unsuspecting contractors working at dual-use facilities. Records reveal that the agency monitored the procurement of high-voltage capacitors, which are essential for the high-speed timing required to detonate a nuclear warhead simultaneously. Documentation confirms the existence of a secret agreement with Norwegian intelligence to track the global movement of heavy water barrels via their maritime shipping network. Logs show that the CIA utilized sub-millimeter wave radar to look through the concrete walls of suspected storage bunkers in Negev Desert. Agency technical files confirm the use of encrypted fiber optic taps to intercept real-time data from the internal laboratory servers at the Natanz facility. Records prove the KUPEARL utilized specialized drones that could hover and stare for 24 hours to monitor the exit frequency of waste disposal trucks from secret sites. Documentation confirms the agency tracked the purchase of vacuum induction furnaces, which are specifically used for the casting of plutonium or uranium spheres. Internal memos show the recruitment of a high-ranking official within the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran, who provided the blueprints for the Fordo mountain site. Records indicate that the CIA utilized atmospheric modeling software to predict where a radioactive leak would travel, allowing them to place sensors in the perfect leeward positions. In the declassified records of the KUPEARL program, the most severe censorship is found in the folder titled Project Spectre Interdiction Final Disposition. This section contains the most redactions in the nuclear monitoring archive, with page after page of black ink covering the specifics of direct action against proliferation hardware. You might hear a whisper in the dark that the agency didn't just watch. They speculate that the redactions hide a campaign of kinetic sabotage. The idea is that the agency used cyber-physical attacks, precursors to Stuxnet, to cause centrifuges to literally explode or tear themselves apart. They believe the black box hide the names of the engineers who designed the software virus that destroyed the Desert Pearl from the inside. In the more paranoid corners of the intelligence community, some imagine the redactions hide evidence that a tactical nuclear weapon went missing in the late 90s. The theory suggests that KUPEARL was a frantic decade-long hunt for a suitcase nuke that had been sold on the black market and was being held in a secret location. They believe the redactions protect the location where the weapon was eventually recovered or lost forever. There is a persistent story that refuses to die regarding the anomalous aerial phenomenon reports within the KUPEARL files. Speculation exists that the redactions hide data on UAPs interfering with nuclear test. Theorists believe that every time a nation in the region attempted to achieve criticality, unknown crafts appeared and deactivated the facility using unknown beam technology. The redactions, they claim, hide the agency's admission that someone else is also watching the atomic watchmen. Deep within the redacted files regarding environmental seeding, a theory has emerged that the agency wasn't just sampling the air, they were changing it. Speculators suggest the redactions hide a program where the CIA released trace isotopes into the water supply of secret cities. These isotopes would bind to anyone working in the labs, effectively turning the scientist into walking radio beacons that could be tracked by satellite anywhere on Earth. A final theory suggests the most heavily redacted sections concern Project Ghost entry. Some speculate that the agency utilized a top-secret molecular drill capable of passing through solid mountain rock without noise or seismic detection. They believe the redactions hide the proof that operatives were inside the facility, the Fordow facility, months before it was officially discovered, installing the very sensors we now rely on. Was KUPEARL a success? Tactically, it was a technical triumph. It successfully mapped the most secretive industrial networks on the planet using tools that didn't exist a decade prior. Strategically, it was a defensive victory. The operation was a success in that it delayed the nuclear threshold of several regional powers by years, if not decades. The success of KUPEARL is found in the time gained. It successfully provided the intelligence necessary for diplomatic sanctions to take hold before any sort of nuclear fallout. The agency successfully identified the AQCON network, a move that dismantled the world's most dangerous nuclear supermarket. However, the project's success was also its eternal vigilance, the reality that the Pearl can never be fully destroyed, only delayed. It successfully proved that scientific intelligence is the ultimate barrier against proliferation. The mission was a total success in preventing a regional nuclear arms race during the peak of the 2000s. It successfully established the gold standard for how the agency monitors hard targets today. Ultimately, it was a success because the flash the agency feared never happened. The program successfully showed that the agency could reach into the most secure bunkers in the world and pull out the truth. It successfully integrated cyber warfare with radiological science, creating a new paradigm for intelligence. The success of KUPEARL is measured in the silence of the desert, a silence that was bought with the tireless work of the Watchmen. It was an unqualified success in identifying over 50 secret shell companies that were being used to bypass international sanctions. The program successfully provided the technical proof needed to convince the UN Security Council of the clandestine nature of the enrichment programs. It was a categorical success in developing the first real-time nuclear early warning system for non-state actors. The operation was also successful in establishing a joint intelligence sharing network with regional allies that continues to function today. It successfully proved that the technical signature of a nuclear program is impossible to hide completely from a sufficiently advanced adversary. Furthermore, it was a success because it allowed the U.S. to preemptively destroy key infrastructure in 2025 using precise bunker buster strikes based on KUPEARL's mapped data. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the atomic watch resulted in breakthroughs that define modern counter-proliferation and security, such as micro-radiological sensors. The miniaturized sensors developed for KUPEARL are now the basis for handheld radiation detectors used by customs and border protection at every major port. Automated centrifuge vibration analysis. The techniques used to listen to enrichment labs led to the modern predictive maintenance systems used in industrial power plants and jet engines today. Satellite hyperspectral gas leak detection. The ability to see chemical plumes from space is now a primary tool for monitoring global methane emissions and environmental disasters. And global procurement network mapping. The algorithms developed to track gray market steel are now used to combat the illegal trade of wildlife, human trafficking, and sanctioned minerals. KUPEARL reminds us that some secrets are too dangerous to be kept and too important to be ignored. The Atomic Watch proved that the agency could shine a light into the darkest corners of the earth to ensure that the dawn of the atomic age doesn't become the dusk of humanity. The sensors continue to click and the satellites continue to spin, a silent testament to the fact that peace is often maintained by those who watch the invisible. We are still living in the safety provided by those who tracked the pearl in the sand, in the treaties that hold, and the reactors that remain under guard. The story of the atom is a story of power that must be respected and a secret that must be managed. The nuclear watchmen remain at their post, knowing that the price of safety is a vigil that never ends. We must remember that the greatest weapon is not the bomb itself, but the knowledge of where it is and the will to stop it. In the end, the watch was not just about the Middle East, but about the survival of the global order. The click of the counter is the heartbeat of a world that chose to stay in the light. Through KUPEARL, the agency achieved an omnipresence that redefined the concept of nuclear deterrence for the 21st century. The watchmen never sleep because the desert never truly hides its secrets from those who know how to look. The legacy of the pearl is not in its power, but in the restraint we showed while holding it. We are the keepers of a fire that could consume the world, and KUPEARL was the shield that kept that fire in check. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, and remember, the most dangerous pearl is the one you never see forming. Join us next time as we examine QR Plum. In the vast cities of the East, the agency sought to nurture the seeds of liberty. We'll uncover the facts behind QR Plum, the clandestine program to support pro-democracy activists. While it began with Ukraine, it evolved into a game of information warfare, digital dissidence, and the long struggle for the heart of a nation. Join us next time for The Dragon's Choice. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.